Reverend Deanna Cox here. I feel like I'm in the shadows there. How are you? This is our midweek reflection for, November 18th. Wow, how is it the middle of November already? We missed a reflection last week because it was Remembrance Day. So if you were looking for it, it wasn't there to be found. I hope you found some significant way for you to mark that time of remembrance. And so thank you for joining me today. I've come in from a walk, and so I'm quite appreciative of a hot cup of coffee and a chance to be inside. And so my cheeks are nice and rosy. And yeah, I just thought I would, it's also the kind of day where I think maybe our reflection would be more like sitting back and enjoying a cup of coffee together. Especially as I think about our friends and church family and family that are in like Providence Place, that's under lockdown, and the residents are confined to their rooms, and Rosalta Lodge, that's also under the same situation in Camrose, and then I think beyond that of our seniors and or singles that live independently and have been isolated like that for so much longer. And so I thought, for me, if that was my situation, I would love someone to sit down and have a cup of coffee with me. So I thought maybe we would do that today and share a bit of a reflection on this service that's coming up. This coming Sunday is the Reign of Christ Sunday, or Christ the King Sunday. We haven't always focused on it a lot in the United Church, partly I think because we tend to avoid that patriarchal and hierarchical language of kingdom and masculine language. But if you think about it, God's reign on earth isn't about either of those things. It isn't about one being better than the other or one, of anything. And actually, one of the passages that we're going to read is from Ezekiel 34, if you want to look it up and give it a preview. And if you're a farmer, it's a story about separating sheep and goats. And I worked at an auction mart for quite a few years where I actually separated sheep and goats. And it's not as easy as it sounds. And so yeah, there's that. I got off track there for a minute. But yes, it's a story about sheep and goats. And quite often that passage or a similar passage gets used as judgment against others. And one of the things that I like about this one is that it says God is the judge, not us. And so I'd like to take some time to think about that as you sit with your cup of coffee and ponder our midweek reflection. What it would mean to give all the judgment over to God. It's pretty big, because I think as humanity we kind of take pride in judging people, like even in good ways, right? Like first prize ribbons, that's a judgment. Somebody's better than somebody else, and it might be in a magnificent sort of way. But yeah, just to contemplate as the week goes on, what it might mean to give over all judgment to God. I see a couple people have tuned in. My phone's too small, I can't see who you are, but welcome. It's nice to know I'm not alone here with my coffee. The other passage that we're going to talk about on Sunday is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25. And we talked a bit about it, I think, at the very beginning of our worship series on justice, love, and humility. And I know I talked about it at Reverend Paul Allard's covenanting service in Hardesty and Hughenden, because it's the passage about the least of these. And if we've fed somebody or clothed somebody, that we've also done that to Jesus. But that if we ignore somebody and ignore the hungry, that we're also ignoring Jesus. And again, that comes down to that judgment, right? Like, we choose who to ignore, and it's calling us to not judge, to live as we have been called to live as Christ's beloved on earth, to bring God's reign to earth. And so I invite you to think about that, like what you can do to spread the love and compassion and kindness and grace of God into this world. And I know one thing, that if you know someone in a care center that's in lockdown, like Providence or Rosalta, or if you know someone who lives alone and could maybe use a connection, I know that I certainly can't call everybody, and I know you can't call everybody, but if we each pour ourselves a cup of coffee and sit down and phone someone who's on their own, I think, and let them know that the reign of Christ is coming in our love, in how we reach out to each other. I think that would do a lot, I think. So I encourage you to think about what it would be like to let go of the judgment, to let God be the judge, how we can share God's love and compassion in the world in whatever way we can. And, oh gosh, there was a third thing. Oh yeah, I guess you could think about what it would be like separating the sheep and goats, because that was a fun time. I actually really missed that time in my life. I made some very lasting friendships there. And yeah, just how you are going to take God's call in your life seriously. And I don't mean suddenly everybody's got to wake up and realize they have to be a preacher. I just mean we're all here. We all tune in to our Sunday service online, or to this midweek reflection, or we come in person, or we give financially, or we volunteer, or to bake for a funeral, or our faith calls us to be who we are in some sort of way, to stand up. And how are you going to take that seriously? I think that's more than enough to chew on for till Sunday. And I better stop before I have to play this for my sermon, because I've said all I want to say. And yeah, I'm kind of excited to reflect on this a bit more on Sunday and to know the ways that we are called to be God's people in the world, to bring God's reign, God's kingdom here. And so, friends, gather something warm, whether that be coffee or just rub your hands together, generate some heat, and know that you're not alone. That warmth that you're cupping in your hands is shared. If you open your hands, you'll feel the heat rising off of it. And may you know that it is going out into the world and warming, hopefully, those who need it the most. So, for you, may God's love surround you and sustain you this day and evermore. Amen. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to our midweek reflection. I'm Reverend Deanna Cox. I serve the United Church of Canada, the communities of Daysland, Killam, and Roseland. And this week we are also pinch hitting for Killam and for Viking and Irma United Churches as Reverend Scott is away. So blessings and love to you all. Reach out and care for one another in COVID appropriate ways. Take care, everyone. God bless. Love you.